Hotline Miami released in 2012 to tons of praise, mainly for its intense and fast-paced gameplay. After I saw it for cheap, I decided to try it out, and I had a really great time doing so. Stick around and let's take a look at Hotline Miami. So I'm really not sure what drew me into this short indie game, but looking at it now, there is a lot to like. Devolver Digital, makers of Enter the Gungeon and The Messenger, had a part in this game, so it clearly shows that it must be pretty great. And, surprise surprise, it honestly really is. The gameplay is obviously the highlight, with some of the most unique and smooth levels I've seen in a long time, but there's also quite a bit of other things to enjoy. But before I get ahead of myself, I'll briefly set up the story. Set in 1989 Miami, you play as this dude who most people refer to as Jacket. You receive coded messages on your answering machine to go and take out groups of the Russian mafia. That's about all I can say without getting into spoilers, but I'll talk about the story again in a bit. In the meantime, let's dive deeper into the gameplay. Alright, so when I say dive, I literally mean dive, because the combat is so deep in this game. There's so many different systems and mechanics working with each other that the developers put together in creative ways for each level. For example, the different masks you wear offer different advantages. Some are helpful for gameplay, like make you walk faster or make all your guns silent, while others are just kind of for fun, like one that badly translates all the text to French. There's also a massive amount of weapon variety, although I must admit it was honestly rather rare to find some of the more unique weapons. After each level, your points will add up and you may unlock a new weapon, and don't worry, it's very easy to get them all. But since many of the weapons you get are from defeated enemies who only carry a few different melee weapons and guns, there's some things I unlocked and I swear I never got to try even once. Anyways, moving on from weapon variety, there's also quite a bit of enemy variety. But that's usually just based on what weapon they're wielding. And then apart from things like that, the level design is always created to be challenging with enemies all in tricky spots. You'll always be in situations where there's a few guys and you can't just pick them off one by one because then the others will see you and instantly kill you, but then you don't want to lose your combo, so you have to act fast. The game makes you think quickly and it's honestly really enjoyable. The levels are also filled with things like glass that enemies can see you through but you can also shoot through, or walls that can be shot through which then make a loud sound, or doors that knock people over but then you have to finish them off. There's just so much and it's really great. It takes quite a bit of time to learn everything, but once you do, the levels move very smoothly. I briefly mentioned this earlier, but all the levels revolve around a point system. You get points for killing people, having a lower time, keeping up combos, all sorts of things. Even this has depth to it, as killing people with something like a long-range assault rifle will give you a lot less points than going and smashing their face in with a melee weapon. Both the actual gameplay and the point system are very challenging to get good at. The gameplay is fast-paced and requires split-second decision-making and reaction time. Seriously, like if an enemy sees you for longer than half a second, you're pretty much dead. But also, the game makes sure that death is not a huge consequence. When you play this game, you must have the mindset that you know you will die. Because you will, like a lot, but that's okay. Checkpoints aren't generous, but also don't make you completely restart the level, usually just the floor you're on. Eventually, you start to learn enemy patterns and get a routine going until you finally beat the level. And dying doesn't even take away points or anything, it just makes your time longer, which generally isn't a huge problem. Still, getting an A+ on every level would require a lot of commitment. I only got 2 or 3. The controls can be pretty hard to get used to, since you mainly use the shoulder and trigger buttons, but by the end of the game it's usually not bad. Oh yeah, and if you couldn't tell, the gameplay is very brutal. You're constantly killing with blood splattering everywhere. Some of the animations are just so brutal but also very satisfying. I didn't even imagine how much gore you could show in pixel graphics. One last thing about the gameplay, bosses are about one of the only parts where the game lacks. Luckily, there's only a few, but the ones that do exist tend to be very difficult or feel really short and kind of pointless. But that's to be expected with such a fast-paced game. Still, that one negative doesn't outweigh all the positives. The gameplay is, as a whole, some of the most fun I've had in ages. What else? Oh yeah, Hotline Miami is a pretty short game, but lots of it is based on replaying levels and trying out different tactics to try and get better scores, so the length is really never a problem. Also, almost every level has a tiny puzzle piece to collect, and I mean it's like really tiny, so they can be awfully hard to find. Although, it really doesn't take that much effort, and unlocks the real ending, so I would highly recommend finding them all. Another couple things to love about this game are the soundtrack and the graphics. Both are stylized in the 80s and are really glorious to listen and look at. The songs include both amazing beats for the levels, as well as some of my favorite slow songs for the cutscenes and such. One song even appeared in The Last of Us Part 2. I thought it sounded really familiar, and then I realized that that gamer person who you stab in the neck is actually playing the game on her PS Vita. Pretty awesome. And the graphics, I mean, oh man, they're stunning. Despite being pixelated, the colors they use are incredibly stylish. I mean, just the title screen is amazing. Although the people are kind of very scary, like really scary, but I think that's kind of the point. As one final point, the story is pretty confusing. It's interesting, but it's kind of hard to understand what's going on. I just read a plot synopsis, and I mean, I had no idea that any of that stuff happened. So yeah, that's it for this review. Hotline Miami is a wonderfully stylish and brutal indie game that I'm going to give a solid A. I had a blast playing it and can't wait to see what's in store with the sequel. Thank you guys for watching, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys in another video. Thanks again, bye.